back to No Sympathy for Kings, a Rich Man's podcast. I'm your host, Ian, and I have a very special guest here today. Uh, Person I met actually in my corporate life like a gazillion years ago, it feels like now. And someone who's built up her own business and is currently out there. You're running, is it like a marketing services business, Liv?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay. You're running your own marketing services business for, it's been what, about 4 or 5 years now?
yeah. About 4 or 5 years or so. Yeah,
All right. So the one and only, the homie, Olivia Arnold. How you doing today?
I am doing great. I'm a little sad ain't no sun, but there is no snow. So outside of that, I'm doing great.
Yeah. Yeah. Cleveland's just like merciless.
Right, ruthless. Okay.
Yeah. So let's start with you and your story. Now, tell us a little bit about yourself. Like, who are you? Where you from? Where'd you grow up?
Yeah. So I grew up in Shaker Heights, and I went to Shaker Heights High School. I from there went to I struggled literally because I thought I was going to New York to go to fashion school. Didn't end up going to fashion school in New York. So I ended up going to Tri C for graphic design, and then moved to Kent. Complete dropped out, and then went back. Had a full ride too, but dropped
Mhm.
out and ended up going back to Tri C for a few years, and then got my bachelor's and my MBA from DeVry and Keller, and legit was in the corporate world for I don't know, almost 10 plus years, and got laid off from there, started a business. And so that's really where I am now. So it's been a pretty interesting journey. I know you mentioned earlier we met in corporate life. And so I've been a few years out of that. And honestly, if I had to be honest, thank God, because if you know anything about me, I really am, I really don't like any limitations, and that's probably the best aspect of being an entrepreneur. There's no road, everything is limitless. I can create my own, I can be my own, I can create my own doors and opportunities. So just to share a little bit about myself, I am the owner of Emerge Consulting Firm, which started off originally as a marketing branding company, managing social media profiles, building websites, and developing out branding for many clients, small business, corporate business, nonprofit business owners, influencers, you name it. And ultimately moved. I mean, I still do a lot of branding work, but I ultimately moved into coaching, and so now I'm doing what I call I'm emerge with Liv online. But I have an Emerge Amplifying Your Voice Academy sort of thing going on, where I'm helping women amplify their voices to begin to uh, increase and show up online digitally more boldly, more influentially, and with impact. And so I'm helping them build their brands, their digital brands from the ground up, and pushing them with boldness to do it. So that's a little bit about me.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Like, I love the progressive, like the build, like you kind of wrap this whole interview in like 2 minutes. No, that's wonderful. Like I've loved seeing your growth and everything since you transitioned, from corporate to being independent. And
Yeah.
so, like, where did that bug start for you? Like, wanting to get into like that marketing lane?
Honestly, it was all by accident. I'm not gonna lie, it really was by accident. And so I was working in corporate. I felt this nudge. I felt this nudge to what I would like to say to get off the couch. I had been watching everybody else progressively move forward, and I didn't necessarily have my own thing. So I let this. It started off actually with this relationship I was in. Right, left this relationship, got out the relationship for after 7 years, realized that I was a whole movement by myself, right? And there was something brewing on the inside of me. So I had this big birthday party. The owner of the venue, it's a very popular venue downtown, and especially at that time, people were doing all kind of events. He wanted me, he seen how massively I was like going out for this birthday party event, and how my marketing was and how much business it brought him. And he was like, hey, can you do my marketing? From there, I'm like, I was at a point where I was like, you know what, I'm not leaving any money on the table. So yeah, why not? And I was in school at the time, and I knew that that would be the only way that I could really build up my resume, because I started out in corporate America with no degree, no background, no nothing, right? So they just kind of placed me. I kind of went where they placed me. And it was really hard to grow and go up that corporate ladder. So I knew I had to begin to create some opportunities. And so that's what I did. I took it on, started doing events. The events were really successful. And then from there, people just kept coming to me and asking, hey, can you do this? And I would say yes. And then very quickly I began, and this is not a brag, but it is a brag because it's by the grace of God that I can do it. I was able to begin to look at things and put it together, even if I did not know how. And so I started taking on that marketing mantle and was like, I can do this. And I didn't think I would necessarily be an entrepreneur, but I was pushed into it. And marketing just became my thing.
What's like your favorite like aspect of marketing world?
I think right now my favorite aspect of marketing is seeing someone who did not know what was on the inside of them and me being able to pull it all out and showing them that it's marketable, that what they have is a solution, and then helping them market that solution and them seeing that people need what they have. So a lot of times people don't know what they need until you tell them. And so being able to build those individuals I work with up to say you have something that someone needs and them actually seeing that's what I love.
Yeah, that's like painful for me to watch, like other, like some of my peers in the entrepreneur space or the podcast space or wherever, like how they undermarket themselves sometimes. They don't realize like what they need.
Yeah.
It's like there's presentation is such an important aspect of it to catch people's attention, like all the way down to like color palettes, what you're wearing,
right.
You know, the shade of lipstick, you know, whatever, your hair.
It all matters. It all matters.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. So you, how long were you in corporate before you transitioned?
Man, I started out in probably 2007, and I started actually freelancing in 2013, and I left the corporate world in 2017. So I was already freelancing for about 4 years before I actually transitioned completely out.
Okay. And so you started in 2007. Like, what was your earliest, like, I guess, independent effort, like in that space? Like, where?
Wow. So I went back to school to get my degree in web development in 2008. And so I started doing, it was really funny. MySpace was still popping then. And so I learned HTML on MySpace.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started doing like websites, HTML websites. They were crappy, okay? But those were my first experiences. And when I realized I really wasn't that great at HTML, I started doing websites for people that was like on, Weebly and Wix and those types of things. And so those were probably some of my probably earliest my earliest experiences outside of actual corporate world was just building websites. And actually I was really doing them for free, and I wanted to know that I could do them before I started charging.
Right. So you were still trying to get a feel for like what was in you.
Yeah, I was.
So like, that journey started from within.
Yeah, it did. It did. And honestly, that I feel like that's how it starts for everybody. At some point, you have to realize where you fit in. And I probably can say that there's nothing I did not try. There's nothing that I had not done. And at some point, had to realize, what did I really love? Because it's not only served me and lit me up, but I could see I was able to do it successfully for individuals that I worked with.
Mm-hmm. Now, when did you know that you wanted to pursue this like full time? Was it while you were still kind of like working in corporate, or was it like when you got that push when you were pushed away from that particular situation?
So that's actually funny. So in 2016, I had started doing some blogging, and I was stepping into this role of coaching, but didn't realize it was coaching, and this whole encouraging and motivational speaking type thing. Didn't even realize what I was doing. And I remember crying at my cubicle, like, I cannot do this. I would be in the front cubicle, front row, crying, like, I can't do this. I know there's something more in me. And it was in those moments that I started feeling the birthing pains, the contractions of something else brewing on the inside of me. And in 2017, when I got laid off, I knew I was going to get laid off. I just had this feeling. I could feel it in my spirit that I was going to get laid off. And then they came and said, "Yep, you're getting laid off." Funny thing is, it was supposed to be a whole group layoff, and I was the only person that got laid off. So it must have all been on purpose, right? And when I could not find a job, I was literally forced into doing what I had been doing. So I mean, I literally prayed and was like, "What can I do?" And God was like, "What's in your hand?" And so I looked at it and I said, "Well, I've already been doing this, so let me do it full on." And from that point, it just kept moving and kept pushing and growing forward.
And it just took flight. Yeah,
Yeah.
I remember those days, like when we first got acquainted. Like I remember like the frustration and just like that. If I could tell you felt like out of place. You didn't quite know like what the next move was for you, like within that infrastructure. And it was really like it was really inspiring to see just what you did with that opportunity. You took something that most people will look at as like kind of like devastating, like a death blow almost.
Yeah.
And you said, you know what, it's not fatal. Like I'm just gonna move on and do my own thing.
Yeah. Yeah, and you're right. It was actually really a place of darkness for me. And so I really had to do something that was already innately in me, which was to call something that was in the darkness into light. Because basically I've always been an entrepreneur. I just didn't realize it. I never fit into those boxes, into those walls that was trying to contain me. And as a creator, that's what we do. We create things, we speak things into being. And so I literally just had to walk in it. And so that's that's where we are. That's where we are now.
Yeah. What kind of like what did you learn from your time in corporate? 'Cause I always say that corporate is like there's definitely the darker aspects of it, like the unsavory aspects of corporate, but you're also kind of getting like a lot of like paid training for a lot of things that you don't realize. You get free, well not free, but like they're essentially paying you like leadership training. If you're in the right company, you have a lot of different resources at your disposal to expand your education, whether it's different trainings that are available within the corporation. There's tuition reimbursement, of course,
Yeah.
mentorship, and of course, networking. Hey.
Yeah.
And so, like, what were some of the things, like some of the good things you took away from like that corporate experience?
Honestly, I think number one thing, and I always talk about this, is business acumen. I learned how to manage my business in a very professional way. I learned how to create systems so that I could streamline my processes so it wouldn't be all over the place, and that ultimately created the client experience that I could offer to those that I worked with, so that they would not just limit me to, oh, that's just another small business, but that they would actually know and believe that they were actually working with a company, a firm that knew what they were doing, and it wasn't just putting them off to the side. I learned how to delegate and put things off to off to other people. If there was something I could not do, I learned that, okay, well, there's groups and teams of people that I can bring on, that I can hire, that will be able to do something that maybe I can't do as well, but they can do it more at a greater level of excellence. And so those were some of the things that I took away. I learned how to manage projects. Those are things that I really, I was doing in corporate, that I was able to take out and apply those things to my own business, that I still even use today.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, that's clutch right there. The project management piece. Like everybody
Yeah,
can't do that like
yeah,
effectively,
that's
for
true.
sure.
That's true.
So when you made the transition, like how long was it from the time that you're let go to the time where you kind of like got the business grew legs and you were able to stand it up?
You want the real, or you want not so real? Which one do you want? Because
I always want the real. Like I don't. I always go right in. I go right for it.
yeah.
You
So
know.
here's the truth. The truth is that when I got laid off, I ended up getting a part-time job working for a dean of a dental school at Case. So I was literally writing his speeches, and he very quickly said, "This ain't for you. I'm not renewing your contract after a year. Go fly, go soar. There's other things in you." I was like, okay. I was literally put out completely with nothing at that point, and had to begin to grow. Let's be honest, I was not at a state financially to grow. I mean, to completely support myself. So I lost everything. I had to move in with my mama. I was sleeping on a broken bed in her storage room. And I was like, okay, something's going to have to work. I spent 10 to 14 hours in my car working and praying and saying, something has to work. Something has to give, because you didn't give me this business so I could fail. And so it took me probably about from 2018 to 2020 to really get things lifted. And actually, where everybody was losing jobs, COVID was my best year. I made probably more than in a whole year of 2019 in 3 months in 2020. And I was like, whoa, okay, let's move, let's do this. And everything just kept moving forward from there. And so it was not an easy journey for this thing to get its legs, and to start walking on its own. It took some time. It took some time. And I think a lot of people have misconceptions about entrepreneurship. Everybody make it look pretty. They make it look good. They have all these pictures and all these things, and that's not how it always is.
Yeah, it's really deceptive marketing for the entrepreneurial experience. A lot of the times, people like kind of like want to skip the bridge. You know,
Yeah.
they just want to like go from having an idea from concept to just like having something just like be able to function and and make money and everything. Okay,
Yeah.
so you found a lot of opportunity during the big digital boom that was the pandemic, where people were moving away from going physically spaces, but also were able to sit down and really think like, oh, you know what, there's more I could be doing here, independently away from like just traditional work, whatever that is. So like, where did you find like most of your like what did it like what was like what were some of the cases where you started like getting more work and things started picking up? Was it in web design, or was it in like helping people like with branding?
It really was in all of the above, if I'll be honest. There were some very unique cases. Some of those things were people didn't want to grow online. They started seeing online as an opportunity to grow digital businesses, where they didn't have to have a brick and mortar, where they didn't have to do external marketing and do very awkward things that were for them, like network externally. Sometimes it's very awkward to go up to people and network. So they found more comfort doing that online. And so I found myself doing a lot of developing a lot of brands and doing a lot of digital events. I found myself actually going and working with churches, because now churches want to have a digital presence. And now what was the sanctuary once before now became a digital sanctuary. So I found myself doing a lot of that. I also found myself helping people develop a lot of digital products, as well. And so that probably became one of my biggest services, was creating digital packages, digital products, such as courses and drop ship stores and ebooks and those types of things, because now people seeing what was always there. They didn't necessarily see it as, wow, online is just one big store that I can now push out my services and products without having all this external manpower. So
Yeah. Okay. And at what point along that timeline did you start like really embracing the coaching aspect of the thing, or the consultancy aspect of it?
wow. In some of my lowest moments, I literally was, I remember just having moments in my car when they were feeling hopeless, and they would call me, people who they were making great impacts outside of digital spaces, and now they had no idea what to do. They thought they had nothing. And so I would get calls, and just out of nowhere, one call that was about a flyer, or one call that was about a logo, began to talk about their gifts and their purposes and their call in their life, and how they could make a great impact, and the things that they overcome, and the sound of their voice, and all these different things. It became about that. And I began to start pulling aspects out of many of the women that I work with, and they started realizing, wow, this is something else I have. And I realized that was something else I had. I didn't know that was completely in me. I did, but I remember in that time period, that real weird time period, when I had lost my job, I stopped doing it. And so it literally came back around, and it came back at a force. And so I started utilizing that, and decided not to bury it anymore.
Okay. All right. Cool. So what is this like? So let's say I'm like an aspiring brand that I'm trying to get off the ground. Well, hell, I am aspiring brand that's kind of trying
Right.
to
I'm
get off
like, what?
the ground. So like, what's the experience with like Emerge from Live? Like first, like where do they reach out to you, and then like where does the consultancy begin? Like what can you give me like a step by step overview of your client treatment, if you will?
Yeah, for sure. So initially, I would my clients will reach out to me. They'll either DM me, then or they'll schedule a consultation, a 30-minute consultation. And me being me, I always overgive. That 30-minute consultation usually turns into an hour call, because that's just who I am naturally. And from there, I send them, some information. Within that call, I'm like literally kind of pulling out what their goals are. And for me personally, I can kind of tell right up in the front, like if it's somebody that I know that they're ready to go to this next level, if there still needs to be some things broken off of them. Because a lot of reasons most people don't move forward is because they're still dealing with levels of comparison, rejection, and all those things. And so I can work with you, but to really move and grow that brand, I need you to know that you have something that somebody needs. So we go through those types of things during the consultation process. If I know that you are ready to move forward, we begin to outline what your goals are. What do you look, what does the next 6 months look like you? How do you define success? Because I don't want you to have this whole idea of success being, oh, I made $100,000 in this 6 months because that's what I'm seeing online. What are your guidelines for success? How do you identify that? So we're outlining those types of things. I also want to know what's hindered you, what's hindering you, what's stopping you from moving forward, so I can know how to attack those things. I want to know what your digital plans are and how you price yourself. Because if you're pricing yourself too low, then I know I have a whole nother beast to tackle. Because if you're pricing yourself too low, then I know you ain't gonna make no money, and you ain't gonna make your money back from me. And so I'm moving and working in those things. But initially, that hour call, I'm never like, of course I want to sell, my coaching services and my one-on-one or my VIP days, or, other services for those clients. But in that one-on-one, I really am serving for real. Like, I look at that one-on-one as serving. If I did my job, they're going to want to work with me, or they're going to want to get themselves in order so that they can move forward with other services. But that one-on-one, I'm looking at it as a service call. Like, I'm serving you and trying to help you just open up those limited beliefs on your mind.
Okay, cool. Okay, then from there, how do we go from like that conversation to like tangibles? Whether it's digital materials and promo and picking colors and all that stuff.
Yeah. So for there, I began to develop out a coaching plan, or just a plan for you particular, or if it depends. There's 2 different types of things that we could. If it's a coaching plan, I'm walking with you, and I'm also providing assets. Or you may say, hey, I just need you to create these different assets for me. Either way, I'm creating and developing out a plan of what that looks like. Let's say it's actually a coaching opportunity. I'm creating a coaching plan. During our session, we've mapped out what we're going to work on, and I have this content map funnel. So let's say, for instance, you have a digital show that you have started. You don't know what else to do with it. You don't know what the next move is. I'm saying, okay, well, have you monetized it? No, you haven't monetized it. Okay, so we're going to begin to work out that show. We're going to begin to work out the content from that show and how you can begin to use that as a marketing plot or marketing ploy to begin to market other services. So you might do that. Okay, so we're going to go from there to a webinar. From that webinar, we're going to go to a membership program. From that membership program, we're going to go to an ebook. From that ebook, we might also, in the midst of that, be developing out your YouTube page. And from there, we're making sure that we've put enough information out to your audience to position you as an expert. So now they want to create one-on-one opportunities with you. And so we move through it. I call it it's a funnel. It's a whole funnel that I walk through for my clients, and we just move along that way. And I'm providing assets to them so that they don't feel that burden of having to develop something they don't know how to develop on the end, and can use that as an excuse.
That's right. That's great. So what would you say is like, which project that you've worked on so far, let's say in the last year, that you're most proud
of? Wow. Can I be honest? When I think the project that I worked on the most in the last year is my own. I have to be honest. It's been my own. It's been my own. Because in order to really be who I needed to be for my clients, I had to show up for myself. I had to step out of a place of passivity and walk into what most people find as humility. Where they shrink. I had to walk into what humility really is. And if you know anything about what humility is really you taking up the amount of space and not taking up too less. And so I don't want to be all of this and trying to fill up this little spot when I have so much to pour out. And so my best project was myself. I had to really show up and put myself out there for real, so that I can be who my audience needs me to be, because I knew that there was a sound to my voice that somebody needed to hear so that they can go out to do the things that they were called to do. Not only that, I began to create this clothing line, which is actually also a movement. It's called A Bolder Woman. Shameless plug at abolderwoman.com. It's merch, but it's also a community to help women heal, to help tell stories and testimonies so that women know, and men, there will be some men who walk alongside this journey with us too, that they can be bolder than they were yesterday. And what that looks like is that you walk in faith, you walk fearlessly, you walk in the pursuit of the things that set you on fire, and whatever that thing is that was holding you back, you know that there's another side to it. So I'm helping tell stories, because I think it's very important for people to see that somebody else made it to the other side. And so those are the current things that I'm working on that I'm most proud of. I mean, all my clients have been amazingly blessed, and I'm blessed by being able to be a blessing to them. But my best project has been me.
All right. So let me think here. What would you say? No, pull it back. So you spoke to this piece, and I want to revisit this. Just the resiliency that one needs to like really soldier through this kind of work, to really like to have that belief in yourself, and then to go through all those trials and tribulations, to be in a position where you're humbled for a certain part of your life and living a way that most people refuse to live in order for you to eventually live the way that most people can't. Like, where does that resiliency come from for you?
Honestly, the resiliency comes from my faith in God. It comes from who I know He said I am. Knowing that there is always another side to this. That most of the times it's smoke and mirrors. What we're currently experiencing is just a part of the process. And I know if I can continue to be anchored in the truth of who I am and who I know God has called me to be, then I can continue to persevere and move forward. Most of what we see, most of what I know that I've seen are just tests. They're just a part of the process that builds a character for the next. And so that's where my resiliency comes from.
Okay. Yeah, that works. That works. So, what's next for you? Like, how do you envision this like evolving, say over the next 3 to 5 years, if you thought that far into the
Yeah,
future?
I better have thought that far. If you entrepreneur haven't, I don't know, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
Um, so really, I really do see myself continuing to build, emerge consulting, and going into a lot of teaching, doing corporate events, doing corporate workshops, teaching seminars, and doing events. I really want to marry that with a bolder woman as well, because as I grow that series and that movement, I want to build events around there and do a documentary, because I really want to tell these stories. I want the hopeless to know that there's hope. And so that, because I can't do my job if there's no hopeless. I mean, if there's tons of hopeless people, I can't help build brands if no one's saying, I need a brand. I need to do this. I know there's something in me. I can't do my job. And so I want to start at the foundation. And so I see myself building those types of things out, and just and scaling into just tons of teaching, and hopefully, I'm just going to speak this out in existence, traveling the world to do so.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, what kind of, I guess, what kind of tools do you need to do what you do? Like, let's say I'm like, I'm a younger Liv, just like getting into this, this space. Like, what are some of like the key things you need to function effectively in this kind of role, whether it's in coaching, consultancies, or brand building, building websites, etc.
Yeah. I would say number one, and this is something that's not necessarily tangible, but you need connections. That's number one. You're going to need connections as a resource, because my business pretty much has operated off of word of mouth for, I mean, obviously me, but word of mouth has been my biggest resource, right? Um, when, as a coach in business, you need systems. You need systems. If you're going to be developing out anything, you need a system that's going to flow, that's going to take you out of it. And that you're not completely burdening, you're not burdening yourself, and you're not overwhelmed. Um, some of the day-to-day tools and resources that I use are things like Canva, right? I help teach my clients how to effectively use in Canva. I know a lot of graphic designers.
Love it.
Yeah, a lot of graphic designers, they always, yell at me, but I'm like, listen, I want my clients to be able to use something that will be effective for them. Everybody can't teach Photoshop. I mean, everybody can't learn Photoshop. And so I want to teach them something that they can go forward in and be successful in without me. My job is to equip you. So Canva, use it. And there's so many things. You can even build a website on Canva now, like a full website with a whole domain name. I use Canva. I use Dubsado. Dubsado is my bread and butter. It keeps my processes streamlined. I keep all my contracts in there. I keep all of my clients. I keep all of my money, my goals, my money goals. All of my forms, all of my lead captures, all of those things are housed in Dubsado. And I had to make sure I got that even when I wasn't making no money. It was a hard $35 a month, but guess what? It is paid for itself every single month. I utilize that. I utilize programs such as Facebook Creator, or Business Suite, because that helps me. Not only, I don't necessarily plan my content out there, but when I don't feel like I want to spend my life on social media, I can put something in there, and it'll go. It'll be able to
One
post
hundred
to
percent.
screen. Right. It'll post to Instagram.
100%.
It'll post to Facebook. Exactly. And
Yeah.
as well as videos if I
I
don't want to be
plan
there. So
like at least half of my content at this point. Like I schedule it to go out. I don't want to be bogged down with that throughout the week.
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So those are the types of tools and books I read. You know, if you're going to be in this business, you have to remain a student. Don't think that you know it all. Learn,
Mhm.
learn. You might be selling something. Well, don't think that somebody's going to buy something from you if you're not buying something from somebody else. You have to sow, and people will begin to buy from you as well. So those are just some of the kind of the things that I use as resources in my business today.
Mhm. Most meaningful piece of reading you've done. Like, what's the best book you've read that's had like the most impact on your
Um,
work?
Yeah. One of my greatest books, this probably has nothing to do with like design or anything. Innately, it doesn't kind of, it's called Multiply, and it's by John Bevere. It's about multiplication and what our duty is in the earth. And that is essentially what I'm doing. I'm creating a whole bunch of little lives, right? I'm creating a whole bunch of individuals who want to be coaches. And my idea is that they will do something using their voice because it's something they've overcome, and then that person that they've taught and trained can do the same thing. So that is a part of multiplication. So I found my value, a lot of my value and teaching value in that particular book, so that the people that I serve, they know who they are, and that there really is something that they offer that's necessary.
Gotcha, gotcha. All right. Last question. I'm going to put you on the spot, but I'm going to put a fire up under myself too in the act. So, based on what you've observed from my output and my brand, what would you say is like the biggest attribute? What's the biggest opportunity?
Yeah. I think the biggest attribute is your consistency. You have a great level of consistency. And I think if there's anything that you want to learn from business, nothing's going to build by being inconsistent. And so you have a great level of consistency. I think the one opportunity that you could have is just building more things that feed into your business, and also teaching other people how to do what you do, because there's a lot of people that watch you and they wish that they can do or create this space, to cultivate a space that brings people together. Everybody don't know how to do that, and so there might be an opportunity for you to help teach people how to do that, how to build a successful show around it, how to market it, and how to and also teaching other people how influential their stories are, so that they can find themselves in these types of spaces as well.
That's absolutely. I agree with that too. Like, I want to actually like bring in more people into this process. Like, it's mostly for selfish reasons, but like there's a mentorship component to it too. Because
Sure.
I'm a one man band, and it's a lot of work.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I appreciate your time here. This is wonderful. I'm so happy to see you after so long. Like, we got to get together at some point and
Sure.
get those tacos we never got.
I know, right? I know, and I
Yeah,
and your wife actually offered to give me some Girl Scout cookies. I'm
that's
still on
fun.
Girl Scout cookies. I might need to stop by to get those.
Yo, pull up, man. Get them before I get to them. Okay.
Right.
Like I've been behaving, man, but I see those boxes right there, and I'm like,
I know, it's so tempting, so
oh
tempting.
my goodness, yeah, come get them. Just take her up on them. Just come get them.
For
But
sure.
no, this is wonderful. I love like watching your watching your growth. From when I met you to where you are today. You look incredible.
Thank
And
you.
vibrant, and like you can tell just the shine and the polish, and like it's not all a veneer. Like I could tell this is all you, and it's all part
Thank
of your
you.
journey, and it's definitely part of like your makeup and your DNA, and I love seeing that.
Thank
So
you
thank
so
you
much.
so much for sharing this with me.
Absolutely. Thank you for giving me an opportunity. This has been
Absolutely,
great.
yeah. Now tell the people where they can find you.
Yeah, you can find me at Emerge with Liv, anywhere. So I'm Emerge with Liv on TikTok. If you want some, if you need a sermon, right? If you want some encouragement, any kind, you can find me as Emerge with Liv on Instagram. And my website is Emerge with Liv. emergewithliv.com. You can go there and book a session with me. I just published a journal. It's called Believing in God's Promises. You can buy that there. And some of my courses are there as well. Canva courses and content creative clarity courses are there as well. So please connect with me.
Absolutely great. All right. Well, if you guys made it to the end of this video, if you haven't already, make sure you put a like on it.
Right.
Share it everywhere you're at. For anybody that's like looking to get into any kind of entrepreneurial endeavor, you know, holla at Liv everywhere she's at. let this video and this information circulate and elevate you. And thank you so much. Make sure you subscribe to the No Sympathy for Kings of Rich Man's podcast on YouTube as well if you haven't already. And as always, my good people, a lack of discipline may cost you your kingdom. No sympathy for kings. Take care.
Yeah.